Hello everyone! In this video I'm gonna prove to you that the Espada ranking is actually legitimate. But before that, here's a quick reminder of what the Espada is. After Aizen went to Huecomondo, he started to gather his army, and in the time he had spent there, he had created hundreds of Arrancars. The Espada is a special elite group created by Aizen, which stands at the top of the Arrancar hierarchy. The Espada has exactly 10 members, and all of them has a number somewhere on their bodies. That number is their rank in the Espada. The lower numbers are given to the members that are considered more important by Aizen. And that's the part where most people get confused. In most anime series, the numbers represent the strength of the individual. However, in Bleach, Aizen never said that the Espada were ranked based on their physical strength. And that brings up quite a few problems, like Baragon being number 2 despite being stronger than Stark, who's number 1. Or Urukiora being number 4, even if he's clearly stronger than Haribel, who's number 3. Based on these strange differences in power, many people came to the conclusion that Kubo, the mangaka, ranked the Espada incorrectly. But there's one thing I never heard anyone talking about. What if the Espada rankings are not about strength? And if you think about it, it actually makes sense. Aizen, as the leader of an organization, has to consider many things when it comes to his elite fighting force, the Espada. Aside from strength, the person's personality, loyalty, leadership ability, and even his cooperation and communication skills are important. And if we look at the rankings in this complex way, then the ranking makes much more sense. So now that we're done with the basics, let's move on to the next part, where we'll go through the rankings one by one and see whether they make sense. Starting with Yami Ryago, Espada number 10. Yami is actually kind of an exception. Aside from him, every other Espada has one and only one rank. However, Yami has two separated ranks. But for now, let's talk about him as Espada number 10 and we'll talk about his other form later. So, starting with his personality. Yami is arrogant and overconfident. He never gives his all and always assumes he's stronger. He's also very lazy. Most of the day he's just sleeping or eating. And he's also hard to control. He doesn't follow orders and he gets angry over anything. The person who usually takes care of him is Urukiora. And even when it comes to fighting, he only uses his brute force. Yami looks down on everyone other than him. He often thinks of them as trash. He's really bad at communication, teamwork, and most of the skills needed to be useful to an organization. And even his combat abilities are lacking. As I said before, he doesn't think while fighting. He's slow and stupid. Against a captain he has no chance, and even a lieutenant could be a hard enemy for him. Also, there's no guarantee that he will follow Aizen's plan. He might just turn against him if he gets angry. Him being the lowest ranking Espada is unquestionable. Our next Espada is number 9, Aronniero Aluneri. At first glance, Aronniero being higher than Yami might look strange, because Yami could probably kill him without a problem. Aronniero has two main weaknesses. First being sunlight and second being his glass parts, which can be broken quite easily. Then why is he ranked higher? The answer lies in his personality. Aronniero is a real strategist who gathers the information about his enemies and faces them while already having a plan. He knows how to manipulate his enemies and his ability is also in chance-that nature. His main ability is to consume other beings, by which he can obtain their power, body, personality, and even their memories. And that ability actually brings up another question. You see, according to what he said, there's no limit to how strong he can get. So why is he only number 9 if his power is potentially limitless? The answer is quite simple. Aizen needs power now. And if Aronniero is not strong enough right now, then Aizen has no reason to rank him higher, just for his potentials. Another thing to mention is that he is loyal to Aizen and is proud of being an Espada. With his intelligence and loyalty, he is clearly more useful than Yami. But his lack of destructive power and his many weaknesses make him only number 9. The next one is number 8, Szayelaporro Grunts. Szayelaporro is really similar to Aronniero. He is a strategist who is exceptionally good at planning, and just like Aronniero, he gathers as many information about his enemy as he can, even before the start of the battle. But he outshines Aronniero in many aspects. First of all, he has no obvious weak points, like sunlight or easily shatterable glass parts. Aside from that, he also has better abilities. He can make clones of his enemies, he can destroy specific parts of his enemies using voodoo dolls, and even if he's somehow killed, he has many ways of resurrecting himself. Another thing to point out is that he is a scientist, so he can be extremely useful in Aizen's experimentations with the Hogyoku. It's not surprising that he's ranked higher than Yami or Aronniero, but why only 8? I'm quite sure that he could be way more useful to Aizen than Espada number 7, 6 or 5. The problem with Szayelaporro is that he is dangerous. There's no trace of loyalty inside him, he's only following orders until they also benefit him. And he is not an easily manipulatable person at all, quite the opposite. He's almost as good of a manipulator as Aizen. A guy like him can't have a higher rank because it would only make him much more of a threat to Aizen. His rank being 8 is reasonable, based on being really useful but really dangerous. And following him is Espada number 7, Zomari Ruru. Zomari is known for his Sonido, which is the fastest among the Espada. He can move so fast with it that it allows him to create several clones of himself. His resurrection, however, is much more interesting. This form allows him to control different things by looking at them with one of his eyes, and he gets quite a few extra eyes after transforming. This ability is kind of tricky. At first glance, it seems overpowered, but it has its own weaknesses. First of all, he can only use it if he can look at his enemies directly, and even a low-level Kido can prevent that. And there are many cases where it's useless. The example we see is Byakuya's Bankai, where thousands of blades attack at the same time. But there can be many other solutions, like moving so fast that he can only see your afterimage. Ichigo could probably do that in his Bankai form. Or anyone confident in using Kidos can counter Zomari's ability. Him being higher than Szayelaporro is probably due to his extreme and almost fanatic loyalty. Like Aizen is a god to him. 7th rank seems legit for him. Next is Espada number 6, Grimmjow Jagger Jaku. Grimmjow's main strength is speed and power, and what I'm gonna be talking about right now is just speculation, because speed works in really strange ways when it comes to manga characters. But it's not so far-fetched to say that in his resurrection his speed could be enough to dodge Zomari's or Szayelaporro's abilities. Since Byakuya is just slightly slower than Zomari, and Ichigo is way faster than Byakuya, and Grimmjow's speed matches Ichigo's speed when he uses his mask, that would explain why he is ranked higher than them. And the only ones faster than him might be Urukiora or Stark. And concerning his loyalty, he's not really loyal, but he's quite easy to manipulate, so he's not a threat to Aizen. 7th rank seems legit. After him comes number 5, Noitora Jilga. About Noitora ranked higher than Grimmjow, I'm not really sure. It seems to me that they are on an equal level, but of course we have no definitive answer, since Noitora only appeared after both Ichigo and Grimmjow had used up all their strength, so that time doesn't really count. I'd say the reason he's ranked higher is that he's a bit more respectful towards Aizen. Noitora actually mentions at one point that he is grateful towards Aizen for making him stronger and allowing him to fight stronger enemies. While Grimmjow hates everyone who looks down on him, including Aizen. That's probably the reason Noitora is ranked higher than Grimmjow. And about being ranked lower than Urukiora, it's not really a surprise. Noitora being number 5 seems okay. Our next Espada is Urukiora Schiffer, the 4th Espada. Urukiora is a special ranker in many ways. First of all, he has not 1 but 2 resurrections. An important thing to point out is that Aizen is only aware of the first form. But even in that form, he is clearly superior to all the Espada rank below him. However, in his second release, he could easily defeat Hannibal, who's number 3, and possibly even Stark, who's number 1. Against Baragan, however, I'm quite sure he would lose, even in that form. But still, he could probably be the Primera Espada if he wanted to. But again, Aizen is not aware of that form. Aside from his physical strength, he is also the only Espada who is able to regenerate extremely fast. Normally when Hollows become Arrancars, they lose their regeneration ability and gain physical powers in exchange. However, Urukiora was able to keep it, making him extremely hard to kill and instantly making him superior to all the other Espada, except maybe Baragan. And another good aspect of him is that he's completely loyal, and he follows every command. As I said before, he could easily be number 1. The only reason he's ranked number 4 is probably the fact that he's simply not interested in showing off his powers, even to Aizen. He's fine with being the 4th Espada. After him comes Haribel, Espada number 3. As I've already told you, I'm quite sure she should be below Urukiora, but since she's around the level of Urukiora's first release, we can't really complain. Her physical strength is similar to Urukiora's, but of course she lacks the regeneration abilities. In terms of loyalty, she is also completely loyal to Aizen. She never questions any order, and she's ready to die whenever it's necessary, especially her aspect being sacrifice. What separates her from Urukiora is her Frost Shield. She is proven to be a good leader who can control many Rankers at the same time. Even if the said Rankers have quite extreme personalities and a strong hatred towards each other. And her Frost Shield has an extremely powerful technique which can create a giant monster. We can see how strong that monster was because even Yamamoto, the leader of the Shinigamis, had to join the fight. I'd say that without her Frost Shield, she would be equal to Urukiora, or at least to what Aizen thinks Urukiora is. But to be honest, I think Aizen actually knows Urukiora's real form and just pretends not knowing about it. But her Frost Shield is enough reason to put her just slightly above Urukiora. Number 3 seems legit. And we have finally arrived at Baragon Lusenbarn, Espada number 2 and former king of Huecomondo. And let's start with the obvious question. How the hell is he ranked lower than Stark? It is clear that he is far stronger than any other Espada. He is on a completely different level. He's almost like a god, the true god of death. And I know he's technically the symbol of aging, but still it's quite ironic that he's a hollow despite looking like the Reaper, which is kinda the Western version of the Soul Reapers, or in Japanese the Shinigamis. So why? And this is where Aizen being the leader matters a lot. So if we look back at Baragon's past, then we can find the answer. Baragon used to be the king of Huecomondo, however Aizen took his throne. So it's obvious that they don't really get along. Baragon's only goal and motivation is revenge. He waits for the right opportunity to defeat Aizen and take back his throne. And from Aizen's perspective, it's quite clear why he can be the Primera. By giving him the highest rank, Aizen would acknowledge his power. And Aizen is a real sadist, so he really enjoys toying with Baragon. He took his throne, he made him one of his subordinates, and he even made him number 2, telling him that he is not even worthy of being Aizen's number 1 slave. Him being number 2 is ridiculous, but it really suits Aizen to humiliate Baragon like that, so this rank is also reasonable. And our last Espada is Coyote Stark, the number 1 Espada, the Primera. Stark is an interesting one. First of all, he's more thankful to Aizen than any other Espada. Aizen saved him from solitude. But at the same time, he's not really a separate person because Lilith is kinda her other half. When the two match together, they are really strong, but still I'm sure Baragon would easily kill them. And I think even Urukiora could defeat them in his second release. So based on his strength, he should probably be number 3. But his loyalty and still really strong power makes him the Primera Espada. And if we look at how loyal he is actually a lot more loyal than Urukiora. You see, Urukiora only follows Aizen's orders because that gives his life a higher meaning. While Stark is truly thankful to Aizen. Just look at their deaths. When Urukiora died, he was thinking about the human heart, but when Stark died, the only thing in his head was how thankful he is towards Aizen, who gave him strong comrades and saved him from solitude. Even in his last moments, the only regret he had was that he couldn't repay what he got from Aizen. And while I don't think Aizen cares much about it, but I think we can agree that Stark's true and honest thankfulness towards Aizen is the highest form of loyalty that we have ever seen towards Aizen. And that's why he is the Primera Espada. But we are still not over, because there's someone I haven't really explained. Yami, or Espada number 0. And I have to admit that I can't really find any answer that makes sense from Aizen's perspective. I think Yami's number was only changed to make his resurrection form look a bit cooler. I'm sure that he could defeat quite a few Espadas, but he's got no chance against Stark, Baragon or Urukiora. So I would say he's number 4 at best. But if you can come up with any reason to make him number 0 other than just to surprise the viewers, then tell me in the comments. And just to sum up the video, here's a quick recap. Yami in his original form is the worst Espada, no question. Aronnieru is much better because he's smart, even if he's not as physically strong as Yami. Syla Polo is extremely smart and has many overpowered abilities, but he's too dangerous, so he's only number 8. Zomare is not as strong as Syla Polo, but at least he's loyal. Grimmjow is much faster and stronger than any Espada below him, so also no question. Noitora is around the level of Grimmjow, but he is at least a bit more respectful towards Aizen. Urukiora is the biggest jump in power because he could easily defeat any Espada. Baragon might be the only one he couldn't. But he doesn't really care about rank and hides his true strength even from Aizen. So he's only number 4. Hannibal is only ranked higher because of her Fraction and because Urukiora hides his powers. Baragon is without question the strongest Espada of all, but also the most dangerous, so Aizen can't really acknowledge him as number 1, so he got the 2nd place. And Stark is only number 1 because Baragon is out of the question and Urukiora doesn't care, but still he's probably the most loyal Espada to Aizen. If you disagree with anything I've said, then feel free to fight me in the comments. And if you can explain Yami being number 0, then I'd really like to hear it. Thanks to everyone who stayed until the end. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, then give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Hello!